Mr. President, I stand here representing a people being slaughtered with families killed in their entirety, men and women shot in the streets, thousands abducted, tortured and humiliated, children killed, amputated, orphaned, scared for life. No people should endure this. This must stop. No one can understand that the Council is calling for protection of civilians, is deploring attacks against them, is calling for immediate, safe and unhindered humanitarian access, for humanitarian assistance at scale, is rejecting forced displacement and concerned about regional spillover, while at the same time being prevented from calling for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire indispensable to achieve all these aims. This schizophrenia needs to end. The whole world is calling for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. 153 states across the globe have voted for a ceasefire. The moral voices of our time have pleaded for a ceasefire. The Secretary General and the United Nations have called for ceasefire. The humanitarian organizations have urged a ceasefire. They all know the horrors need to end, and the only way to end them is a ceasefire. I must add also millions, maybe hundreds of millions of people in the streets of capitals and cities across the globe are calling for a ceasefire, including in the United States of America. How can anyone believe all those I just mentioned are wrong and they would somehow be right? There is no pride in being wrong alone for so long and with such tragic consequences. This assault is without precedent in modern history in the scale and pace of killing of children, of UN personnel, of medical and rescue teams, of journalists. This is a war of atrocities. How can you reconcile opposing these atrocities and vetoing a call to end the war that is leading to their commission? The State of Palestine has long supported the proposal of France and Mexico for the suspension of the veto in the case of mass atrocities, when crimes of genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes on a large scale are committed. This Israeli assault This Israeli assault on the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip demonstrates how vital this proposal is. Supporting an immediate ceasefire is the only moral, legitimate, and responsible position. 90 days of hell on earth, 90 days of massacres. How many more Palestinians killed till you say enough is enough? How many more tragedies? How much more destruction? During these 90 days, 11 Palestinians were killed every hour, including 7 women and children. Every single hour for 90 days. Hundreds are killed every day to this day. 1% of the Palestinians in Gaza have been killed. let me repeat, 1% of the total population of Palestinians in Gaza have been killed. Take a moment and imagine what that represents compared to your own population. That is the equivalent of 3 million Americans. 3% of Palestinians in Gaza have been wounded. Take a moment and imagine what that represents compared to your own population. This is the equivalent of 10 million Americans. 87% of Palestinians in Gaza have been displaced. Take a moment and imagine what that represents compared to your own population. That is the equivalent of 284 million Americans. Now the UN speaks of famine, of the spread of infectious diseases, of death in new forms and shapes at the doorsteps of thousands more Palestinians. This is not an unforeseen consequence of a war. This is one of the methods of the Israeli war. This is a man-made, an occupation-made humanitarian catastrophe. Israel is destroying everything to make Gaza unlivable. The choice it offers the Palestinian people: destruction or displacement, genocide or ethnic cleansing. This is not about Israeli security. This is about Palestine's destructions. The interests and objectives of this extremist Israeli government are clear and incompatible with the interests and objectives of any country that supports international law and peace. This extremist Israeli government has attacked not only the UN, but also states around the world criticizing its actions. This extremist Israeli government has spared no effort to ridicule its closest ally, the one it calls on for military, political, and financial support, and ignores when it does not like what it is asking for. Netanyahu does not care about jeopardizing regional and international peace and security, vital U.S. interests, or the security of Israelis for his own political survival. That is a choice he makes without any hesitation. No one should accept to play by his playbook. When so many lives hang in the balance, when the stakes are so high, moral clarity and political responsibility dictate a decisive stance and resolute action, not half positions. Security will never come through the death, destruction, and dehumanization of the Palestinian people. It will never come through further dispossession, displacement, and denial of rights. Enough. Enough. Our people have a right to life, to freedom, to justice. Palestine is here to stay. The Palestinian people are here to stay. The Palestinian people will not disappear, but their resilience is no reason to prolong their suffering. How can anyone support a war with such criminal means deployed to achieve such criminal objectives? And how can anyone oppose its criminal objectives and give Israel the means to pursue them? Don't call for peace and spread fire. If you want peace, start with a ceasefire. Ceasefire. Ceasefire and ceasefire now. And I hope that each and every one of you would be having a sign like this every day, like the hundreds of millions who are in the streets, including when President Biden speaks in South Carolina, and when those go to the Congress demanding ceasefire, ceasefire now. Everyone is saying ceasefire now, and we all should be able to succeed in imposing a ceasefire to save lives of the Palestinians, of the Israelis, of everyone. And I thank you very much.